Quick review. We have some crap up here. Classes review. Declare the class, right? Proud camel case. I did catch a couple camel cases. We want a proud camel one, which means a capital first letter, right? That's the main difference. We got to have our constructor function. We got to start thinking about which arguments and which properties to have, as well as which methods our class should take. These are separated. I saw an eyebrow. These are separated because we don't have to pass in the argument to make it a property. We can initialize the property outside of the argument, like we did down here with our age. A little weird that we're making age 0 because the students is going to extend from it, but oh well. And we should think about the methods we want. So if it's taking a first and a last name, maybe we want it to have a method called full name to retrieve that. And then we're also talking about extends, which is all about class inheritance, right? That extends something, so it puts all of those methods on that other class's prototype. And super are arguments that the parent has that we can pass in via the constructor method of the child. So let's go ahead and build this out. So let's just comment on these. And first thing I need to do, create a student class. Help me. Rafid. Class student. One more time? Okay, so we got to, I jumped too far. We've got to extends from person, okay? So class student extends person. Great. All right, who's going to help me with the second part? Will, let's do it. All right, constructor.
You're going to pass the arguments, properties of the person class, which is first name and last name.
Okay, so we've got to pass in first name and last name because the class that we're extending takes in a first name and a last name. Okay, keep going.
And then curly brackets, inside the constructor we're going to invoke super.
Okay, so we're going to invoke super. Right, this is so we can reference our parent class. Anything goes inside of there?
The first name and last name again?
That's right, right? We have to pass in what that parent is expecting. So for this case, it's first name and last name. Okay. Let's make sure that this is working. Yeah? How can I test this? Does anybody know how I can test this? Marvin? Okay, so let's do that. Let's say we'll say Marvin, new student, and we'll make that first name be Marvin. What do you want your last name to be? No, that's a real last name. All right. All right, we'll do that. This is very real to life. Escobar? Cool. Oh. All right. Marvin, keep going. Walk me through it.
All right. And then you can console log Marvin, and you can test the name.
Just like this?
Marvin, that first name. Sorry.
Okay. I'm going to check Marvin.first name. Let's do it. So we'll clear our terminal, we'll run it, and we get a Marvin. So that seems to be working, right? Because it's on the prototype, we should also be able to do full name. Let's test it. Invoking it. So even though it's not on this class, it is on the prototype chain, so it will check all of the methods available on this instance. Then it will check its parent. Okay, we'll keep moving up. Cool, so that's working. What else do we need to have inside of here? Anything else? Shia.
The course list.
Yeah, right. So students going to have a course list. Is that something that we should pass in as an argument or just a property that we should set? Why?
Because we don't necessarily always have to have a default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she says it's a property that we should set because we don't always need to have a default. So that's mostly right because we're technically enforcing a default, right? We're giving them no option to not have a default because they're going to have an empty course list no matter what. So we can say this dot course list. And what seems like a good data structure to hold this? Karen.
Put in an empty array.
Okay, how come?
So then we can push.
Yeah, so we're gonna. She says we can put it in an empty array, so we can push things into it. We can easily take things out of it. We're very familiar with manipulating data in an array, so sounds like a good plan. Okay, we'll save that. And then it says that we should give your student an enroll method that takes in a course and adds it to the student's course list. So who can help me with that? Anyone I haven't heard from? Any new, shy voices? No, we're too shy. Oh my goodness. All right, Sin, you want to help me?
That's what I got stuck at.
This is where you got stuck at? Okay. Danny, let's do it. I love it. The hand is raised. Good. That's like I've never seen someone. Usually you call on someone unexpectedly and they're like, what? What are we doing? I love it. No, that is good. I love the initiative. What we're trying to do is we're going to create a method on the student class that takes in a course as an argument and is going to add that course to our course list.
Alright, cool. So we enroll them.
That's right. Let's do it. We enrolling.
So let's enroll it. It takes an argument course.
Okay.
And all we're doing is pushing it to the course list array. So it's not course list.
Yep, you're right.
Dot push course.
Perfect. I love that. Cool Confidence nails it, right? This should be taking in a course and enrolling that student in that course. Or putting, yeah, let's go ahead and test that. Let's give Marvin a course.
Please not that.
Not what? Cannot hear you, so I'm gonna keep on going. We're gonna say, Marvin, let's enroll in JavaScript class. Be very explicit. Let's see if you are indeed, your instance has been updated. And it looks like you now have JavaScript in your course list. Yeah, Will.
Just to be sure when you correctly, if I use return inside the method, it will return the array name, because push will be the new array name, right?
Exactly.
So you don't use return.
Right. So Will's question is asking about return and how we could use it with this function. So that would depend on what we want to use this function for. If we need a return value from this, we can decide what makes sense, right? Maybe if a class can be added to a student's class list, maybe we return a Boolean. Maybe we say like true, it was added, or false, it wasn't, because maybe we have other tests like because you don't want to enroll in the same class more than once, right? Maybe we want to return a list of all of the courses that they're currently in. Then we would be returning this.course list at the end. We most likely don't want to put a return in front of this.course list.push because push's return value is the new length of the array, right? So because of that, that's not going to give us very much information. We probably either want the course list or probably a Boolean of whether or not this was a successful enrollment. Otherwise, we can just use it as is for its side effects and not need its return. So it's kind of, it's dependent on how you would choose to design it. It could definitely vary. All right, so we've got an enrollment. Now we need to make a courses class. It should have a name and a list of students. It should have its own enrollment to add a student to a student list. Okay. How do we start that? Who wants to help me with that? Yeah, let's do it, Henry.
So you want to create a class, so you go class, course,
Course, I like it. Notice that Henry's making sure that it is singular, right? Class names should be singular because we're making a singular instance of that course. All right, keep going, Henry. Do I need an extends or anything? I do?
You look at the question, look at the question required.
Oh, let's look at the question. Okay.
Or you should have any, or five should have. No, you don't need to extend it.
So how come? What was the determination there?
What happened?
Well, how did you make that determination?
Because let's say it takes time. You wasn't keep anything from any other class.
Right. Okay. So yes, it didn't tell you anything, but it also, right, it didn't tell you that it was like attached or connected to another class. Great. Okay. Keep going, Henry. What else do I need?
I need
Okay. Okay. We're gonna move on to the next person. Thank you. Yeah, Ashia. Takes in a name. Okay. What is a name? What's in a name? Yeah.
And then you have to leave this name
And what's this refer to? The instance of the class, the course object. Okay, excellent.
And then I did this student list.
Okay, yeah, this dot.
And I set that to an empty array.
And we set that all as well to an empty array. Okay, sounds good. Great. What's next? Who's next? Come on, it's a class effort. David, I haven't heard from you. Help me out here. We're going to make a method called enroll student. Okay.
Yeah, it takes in a student,
Takes in a student.
and returns student push student.
Okay, so this one is we're also going to push the student into the student list. So this dot student list dot push student. Sounds good. I know you said return, but what happens if we throw a return here? What will we actually be returning? If I do this, what will I be returning? I would like to, but instead I'd actually be returning Kelvin.
The new number of items in the array.
Yeah, the new number of items in the array. So because it's not going to give me very much information, I probably won't want to use that information. I'm just going to delete it. I mean, maybe I use it if there's like a max size in the class or something. This is the way I want to access to make sure that it's still less or something. Probably not though. I'd probably rather use a Boolean, the list, or just for the side effect. Okay, so let's test this. Let's go ahead and create this JavaScript class. So let's say let JS class. Let's say new class, or we call it course, right? Say JavaScript. Whoops. JS 101. And we can say Marvin dot enroll, and we'll enroll Marvin in our JS class. And let's also go ahead and enroll the JS class. Enroll student. Student. And we'll enroll Marvin. All right, so at the end, let's console log Marvin, and let's also log our new JavaScript class. And make sure it's working. We refresh. And we see inside of our student class, right, we have our Marvin Escobar, age 0. There in their course list, they have a JavaScript 101 instance. And if we look at our course instance, we see that it's JavaScript 101, and in its student list, we have student Marvin Escobar. Okay, so they're pointing to each other. What's something I might not like about this implementation? Does anybody know something we might want to think about here? Anything that sticks out as a little bit negative, a little bit risky or something? Yeah, Shia.
You have to enroll Marvin in the class and then enroll Marvin in the list of the class.
Yeah, right? Ashia says we're enrolling Marvin in the JS class, and then the JS class has this enrollment student, and it's enrolling Marvin, and that's a little bit sloppy, right? Because we might forget to do one or the other, and so that's not ideal. So let's brainstorm some ideas of ways we could fix that. Jack.
You could automatically, when the student enrolls in the class, also enroll also let the course enroll the student within the same method.
Okay, so Jay says we could enroll the student in the class at the same time that the student is enrolling in the class. So we could do it all in one method. So let's kind of see what that would look like. I think that's a great idea. So instead of having this awkward JS class enroll student, we could instead, we know that this course is an instance of the course, right? So we have this object with its properties, all of its methods. So because enroll student is one of those methods, we can this.courseless.pushCourse, and then we can also go ahead and say course dot enroll student. And what should I pass in as this argument?
This name.
This that name? Turn and talk. Talk to the person next to you for a minute. Think about what we could pass in. What might make sense
Repeat
here.
your question again, Brian.
What are we going to pass in as the argument? Brett, number ideas? Like, just the name. That one. Think about it. Keep thinking about it. All right. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Okay. Left hand if you don't know, right? Okay, just kidding. What? The suspense is absolutely killing me. What do we think? Any ideas? Jay? All right, let's hear it.
This.
This? What is it? Why? Tell me about that.
Because we know that we are calling to course, and course will be an instance of a course class. And we know that our function asks for a student,
Yep.
which is
This, right? Because we're in student right now. So this is a reference to this specific instance of student. So if we pass in this as our argument, right? Let's go ahead. We'll refresh. We'll run our node. Let's rip this up a little bit. Right? We can still see that Marvin Escobar still gets added to the course. Right? So that's pretty cool. Right? If you think about ways that you could keep expanding onto this, right? You can make sure that the student can't re-enroll. Right? They shouldn't be able to enroll in the same class more than once. You could add time blocks that are associated to classes, and you can make sure that two classes don't overlap, because you shouldn't be able to enroll in two classes that start at the same time. Right? So I want you to think about these things. Maybe we'll build more on this tomorrow. We can make it a little bit more complicated as the warm-up goes. But that's just pretty much all like the review on classes that I want to hit on at the moment. Any questions? Rafid first.
Can you scroll down at the end of the
Tell me when.
okay.
Right there.
All the
I'm. This is like I'm so bad at getting the correct amount of pepper on noodles. Say when. I freak out. Will.
when we use this as they mentioned, you can only use it when you are inside that class.
You can only use it when you're inside that. Correct.
Because we're trying to pass it to the student itself, right?
That's right. Because this is represents the instance. So it has the name of that instance. It's got all the methods on that instance. All of everything that there is to that specific student. That is this. Oh yeah, I guess there's one other little teensy weensy itty bitty thing I want to talk about. Okay, so for the rest of the day, I'm gonna post a little project. We're gonna do pairs. John, Jenny, can somebody send out a pair list? And you're gonna be we're still gonna be doing object oriented. You're gonna be building a Towers of Hanoi game. Do we need a reminder of kind of what that is?
Yes.
All right. It's always yes. That's okay. Okay, so the way Towers of Hanoi works is you have a certain amount of towers. Let's say it defaults to 3. Right? So we'll have 3 placements here. Here's a tower. Here's a tower. You can think of it as like rings on a disc. Okay? So like that's your tower. And then you have a certain amount of discs. So let's say that defaults to 3 as well. The discs are all different sizes. Right? I would probably represent these as integers. 3, 2, 1. Right? So we have our big disk, our medium disk, and our smallest disk. Okay? So you can move a disk from one tower to the other tower. The only rule is no bigger disk can ever go on top of a smaller disk. Okay, so and the goal of the game is to move the tower, complete a tower from one of these to a different, either of the other ones. So let's say I start. Well, I only really have one first starting option, right? So I'm going to get rid of my small one, and I'll put it here. Yeah. So, what could my next move be? Could I move this to here? Why?
Because one bigger is.
Because it's bigger, right? So I can take this one off, and I can make my medium here. Can I move this one on anywhere? No.
You have to move the first
There's only one I can really move right now, right? So I can move the little one to the middle one. And then I can move the big one, right? I can move this one to here.
And then the first, small ones are the first.
Then I would move the first one to here. The second one to here, right? And then the first one to here. And we did that in 7 moves, right? I think as fast as you can do it for 3 things. Questions on how the game works? So the directions basically say that you're just going to make one class. You can call it game, you can call it Hanoi, I don't really care. And you're essentially going to just build out the logic for this game in your pair. I'm attaching a link to the App Academy curriculum where they have you do it. It's free. I highly recommend signing up. There's a lot of good material and extra resources there. You can follow along to their instructions or the ones that I wrote that are essentially the same. And I wanted to show one more thing, which is I wanted to challenge you to use readline in the library instead of readline sync. So readline sync is a package that we've been adding, right, to our node. Readline is a package that is automatically in node. So it's already built in. You don't have to install anything. The caveat is that readline is asynchronous, while readline sync kind of was synchronous and was hang on, don't do anything until I finish. Readline sync works a little different. Readline works a little different. There's a link to this page, which is pretty helpful, just to show you what you would probably want to do if you were starting. To do this, you would say let readline, or you would say const, right? And we would say require readline. So far it's the same, right? But then we need to create this interface of standard input and output. So what does that look like? I can say const, I'm going to say readline, and I'll assign that to readline, which is what I'm requiring on line 1, dot create interface. And this takes in an object as its argument, where it's going to be input, which will be process dot standard, or something in standard input, I think. And then we'll say our output, and we'll point that to process dot standard out. So just real quickly with how this works, is it works very similar to readline, right? Like our readline sync, I'm saying. It's very similar to our readline sync, except for it's asynchronous. So if I wanted to do something with that, let me comment out the other crap so it doesn't blow up our console. Okay, so let's say I wanted to say how are you? And I wanted to get that information back. I could say readline, or RL, because we were calling it RL for our create interface, dot question, right? Remember we've been doing question before, and this goes I'd say, how are you? When they answer, it will fire a callback function. And the argument of that callback function is their answer. And so I would say console.log answer. Oh, sorry. And let's go ahead and just run this and see how it works. So I'll say node index.js. Says, how are you? Right? So if I had other code underneath this, it would be running. So you can't put this in a while loop because it will just go, because it's going to keep running synchronous code. This is now async. So I would say, oh, I'm good. And I hit enter, and then it console logged good. It went into that callback function. Just to prove my point, though, if I put console log here, what up? And I run this. It says, how are you, what up, right? It keeps running that code. So you'll have to write this async, but that might be helpful a little bit to start thinking in those terms, because that's more along how the browser works, right? Because you're waiting for events. Right, I could nest things. I could say something like first tower. First tower, right? And then I could say rl.question second tower, right? Probably don't literally write the same thing, but I'll say second until I'll make this say first. But whatever, this is like a piece of the idea. And then I can console log first, comma, second. Right, so you can nest these still. So let's go ahead and run this. It says first tower. Oh, well, that what up is still there. I'll just get rid of that real quick. What up? I'll say first, enter, second tower. I'll say 4. Should say first 4. Right? So you can nest these. Notice how it stays hanging open. If you know what I mean, like it's not moving back to that $sign for me to write more commands. At the very, very end of your game, you'll want to call close on your interface. So I could say rl.close and invoke it. If I do that, I won't have to command C to exit. I'll say first tower, I'll write first. Second tower, I'll write second. It says first, second, and then it ends automatically. Okay? Read the documentation, you'll get it. Okay? Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop the video.